All right, we're going to start using ordered pairs from the unit circle. So let's make sure we know what they are. At 30 degrees, you have to remember you're making an imaginary right triangle that's a long and a short distance with a hypotenuse of 1. And when the hypotenuse is 1 and this is 30 degrees, there's an ordered pair that we can put at the value of 30 degrees. So that was root 3 over 2, comma 1/2. The next angle that's very common to use is exactly halfway to 90. So at 45 degrees. Remember, at 45 degrees, when you make your right triangle, this hypotenuse is still 1 and the legs are equal. So that's why at 45 degrees, the values of the x and y are the same. And what we love about 60 degrees is the answers are exactly the opposite of 30, short and then long, instead of long and then short. So the short value and then the long value. Now some people do say, to take a look, the x values go down, root 3, root 2, and root 1, which is 1, and the y values go up, 1, 2, and 3, all under radical signs. So if you need to use that, try to remember it. There's a bunch of YouTube videos that tell you how to memorize that if you need to. So the other thing that you have to worry about is the other quadrants. So remember, in quadrant 2, all right, you're always, in quadrant 2, you're looking to reference off the x-axis, so it's always 180 minus that angle. So 180 minus 30, and then 180 in quadrant 3, 180 plus, well, I even went too far there, plus 30, right, from 180. So in quadrant 3, you always add 180 plus the angle. And in quadrant 4, you actually have to start at 360 and go back 30. So, of course, 330. All right, go ahead and fill in for 45 now. Make sure my math is correct. And 60 degrees. So here it's 180 minus the reference angle. Here it's, in quadrant 3, 180 plus the reference angle. And here it's 360 minus the reference angle. Write this in your notebook. This chart is going to help you. So now you can actually start doing some trig without a calculator, okay? When it first says number 1, secant of 60, remember secant of 60 is the same as 1 over the cosine of 60. Because basically, remember, I tried to remember it, that the S goes with the C when you talk about reciprocals. Just a little mnemonic device to try to remember that. Now, cosine at 60. So if you look at 60 degrees, cosine, you're going to have to remember, like x and y, cosine comes before sine. So cosine is essentially x, okay? On the unit circle, at least. It's the easiest way to think of it. So 60 degrees, and the x value is 1/2. So you're basically on your way to getting your answer there. Let me just get rid of this yellow. Oh, the yellow's all the way back here, okay. All right, so remembering x, y is cosine and sine, and tangent is the reciprocal. I'm sorry, tangent is y over x, I should say, which of course I would usually put theta symbols there, but just for now, that's a little reminder for you. So 1 over cosine 60 is the x value, but reciprocated, and 1 divided by 1/2 is 2. If you move on and try the sine of negative 30, now you have to remember negative 30 is actually the same as 330. So you're basically doing a coterminal. You're saying that the sine of negative 30 is the same as the sine of 330 because of the concept of coterminal. Okay, so then if you look at 330, 330 references 30, and we want sine, which is y. So the last thing we do have to be careful of is, okay, the y value, but you see the y value is negative. So once we say 1/2, we're just going to say that the answer was negative 1/2 for that. Try memorizing the chart now, because really negative 30 is in quadrant 4, and when you want sine, you want y. All right, you try the last 4, let me know how. All right, hopefully you had paused the video and tried the next ones yourself. So let's take a look and see how we're doing. The sine of 210. So 210 references 30 degrees in quadrant 3. And in quadrant 3, they're both negative. So even though it wants sine, which is y, there's our answer, but we're going to have to make it negative. And that's pretty much the process that you're going to be doing. And I believe we said that was negative 1/2. All right, cosine of 300 degrees, starting at 300, you should know you're referencing 60, and cosine is x, so it is 1/2. Now you just have to check and see if it's positive or negative. 300 degrees again was in quadrant 4, and cosine is positive in quadrant 4, so you don't have to change anything. Tangent of negative 225. So negative 225 is the same as what coterminal angle? So by adding or subtracting 360, you can get a coterminal if you need it. So to add 360 to negative 225, I believe you get 135. So once you see that it's the same as something that's on the chart that you're familiar with, the tangent is y over x. So what's great about root 2 over 2 over root 2 over 2 is it reduces to 1, because anything divided by itself is 1. Because we are in quadrant 2, though, we have to be careful of the signs. The y was positive, but the x was negative. So y over x, we're going to have to say actually the answer is negative 1, or we would get that wrong if we didn't say negative. And finally, the cosecant of 120. Let me change the color so you can see it. Cosecant of 120. Cosecant is the reciprocal of sine. C goes with S and S goes with C. So if cosecant's reciprocal is sine, we basically need to know what the sine of 120 is. So at 120, sine is y. So we're basically going to say root 3 over 2. Oh, but it's in the denominator. And we do have to remember we're in quadrant 2, which means sine in quadrant 2 is positive. So knowing that this answer is basically done, we're just going to first divide 1 by root 3 over 2, and then multiply top and bottom by root 3 over 2 to rationalize the denominator. And that's our final answer for that.